People give up everything to follow Jesus Christ. Their money, their careers, their families, even their own lives. That's what this group believed they were doing. Stepping into the wilderness to find salvation, to meet the Son of God, to ascend. And they did meet something, but it wasn't Jesus. What's going on, guys? Just want to give you a quick update right here. I know in the last couple weeks I've been uploading on Thursday and Saturday, and if you know my schedule on Thursday, I hit do not notify subscribers to try to get the algorithm to push me out, and that's what I'm going to continue doing. And Saturday is when I hit do notify subscribers. That way, you guys remember me, you don't forget me, but I got all these other things going on right now with monster trail cams, with Project Paradox. If you guys haven't checked out Project Paradox, type it in or it'll be in my description. I'm telling you, me and Donovan Dredd started a storytelling channel, and I'm the one you're going to see on screen. So you got to go check that out. So I'm just going to keep to the Thursday uploads right now, and that means I am going to hit do not notify subscribers because, I need YouTube to find me a group of people because I love you guys, but when I hit notify subscribers, it literally doesn't push it out to the algorithm. So bear with me and just know every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. I better see you there because that's when I'm going live. Alright, today is a special Easter episode. I was actually not going to do one today, but I'm glad I did to be able to tell you guys that about Thursday. And this is a messed up story, but get ready because as of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Let's go. The first group entered the forest in January. It was quiet then. Just a handful of believers following their pastor into the brush with backpacks, blankets, and Bibles. They said goodbye to their homes, their relatives, and their modern world. One man left a note to his brother saying, "Don't worry, we're going to a place where we won't need food anymore." Now, at first, nobody noticed. It was not unusual for isolated religious groups to go off the grid in rural Kenya. And besides, they had done this before. You see, small groups would vanish into the interior only to return weeks later looking tired, but peaceful. Like they'd touched something sacred almost. But this time, they didn't come back. A woman showed up at the nearest hospital, barefoot, starving, and nearly incoherent. She said she had escaped from something. A group, a forest. Doctors tried to question her, but she just repeated the same phrase over and over again. She would say, "They told us, no food, no water, just meet Jesus soon." And that's when the police were called. No one knew what they were walking into. Shakahola Forest is massive. Twisting paths, dense brush, and red dirt. You can walk a mile in any direction and literally see nobody. The only sounds are insects and the wind in the trees. So police moved, slowly at first. Just a few units with dogs and medics. They thought they might find a cult outpost, maybe a few survivors. Instead, they found a clearing. And in that clearing, they found a shallow grave. Then another. Then another. Then dozens. The Kenyan Red Cross and forensic teams were called in. The forest was sealed off completely. Helicopters flew overhead, drones scanning the treetops. Over the next 2 weeks, graves kept appearing, hidden underneath logs, beneath makeshift shelters, covered by branches. Bodies, first dozens, then hundreds. The numbers were so high they had to stop counting out loud. And by the time the initial sweep ended, over 400 dead had been uncovered. Most had died from starvation. Others, according to forensic teams, showed signs of suffocation, blunt trauma, or restraint. But they weren't killed in chaos. It wasn't a raid or a purge or a massacre. It was quiet. It was planned. And at the center of it all was one man. Paul Mackenzie. Paul Mackenzie started out as a taxi driver, but in the early 2000s, he claimed that he had received a divine vision. So he left his job and he started preaching. His message was actually quite simple. This world is a lie. Schools, medicine, governments, banks. It was all part of a system designed to separate people from God. Salvation, he said, could only be found by shedding the illusions of this world. He wasn't the first man to say this, but Mackenzie had some different charisma. He didn't scream, he didn't threaten, he spoke calmly like someone who had already stepped outside the system and was inviting you to join in. His small congregation then grew, then doubled, then tripled. He opened a YouTube channel, began selling DVDs, preaching at rallies. But around 2017, his sermons took a turn. He began talking about ascension, a spiritual journey that required sacrifice, specifically the denial of the body, which meant no food, no water. The phrase he used over and over again was fasting to meet Jesus. So, in 2017, Mackenzie was arrested for promoting extremist religious doctrine after several of his followers were found emaciated and hospitalized. He posted bail, though, and walked free. He was arrested again in 2019 for operating an unregistered church and for discouraging school attendance. But again, he was released. People had started to worry, but there were no concrete crimes. His followers kept saying the exact same thing. We're not being forced. We're preparing ourselves for the kingdom. And in early 2023, Mackenzie quietly sold off his land and disappeared into Shakahola Forest with his most loyal disciples. And then, no one heard from them again. The compound was unlike anything investigators had ever seen. It wasn't a bunker, there were no walls, no gates. It was a village built for death. Scattered across miles were sleeping mats, fire pits, empty water jugs, and open Bibles. Some graves had simple markers, others had none. And in the crude shelter at the very center of the compound, investigators found Mackenzie's living quarters. And there were journals, handwritten rosters of the names, and a set of recorded sermons, each one more detached than the last. For example, when the body weakens, the soul prepares. The hunger is the holy fire. Pain is the narrow path. Walk it, and you shall rise. In total, just over 50 people survived. Some were too weak to speak. Others were in a daze, unable to answer even the most basic of questions. But a few of them remembered. One woman described a strange ceremony when a follower had reached a certain level of quote-unquote purification. They were taken into the woods and then left alone. Some were never seen again. Another man had tried twice to escape. The first time, he was brought back. The second time, he found a road and collapsed near a farming village. That man's testimony is what led to the first police raid. Paul Mackenzie was then arrested in April 2023, found hiding not far from the forest. He offered no resistance, and of course, he wasn't one of the ones who was dead. When asked why he did this, he reportedly said, "I did nothing. They came to me. They wanted to meet Jesus." He was charged with multiple counts of murder, terrorism, and crimes against humanity. He and 29 of his top disciples are awaiting trial. Authorities believe that there may still be graves that have been left undiscovered. Today, the Shakahola Forest is now sealed off. Parts of it are now treated as a mass crime scene. Other parts are considered sacred ground by former followers who escaped but still believe. And Paul Mackenzie, well, he continues to preach, but from behind bars. He says he has no regrets, that what happened was not murder. He calls it obedience. He says they were just fasting to meet Jesus, and some of them still believe him. This was a very sick individual, and he is still awaiting trial. I hope you guys liked that one. I figured, Easter, I would just try to find someone who said they were Jesus, like this man. And it's kind of crazy that a lot of people follow him, but then again, cults are literally made every day, and there's a new person following every day. It's really crazy, so stay safe out there, Midnight Mafia. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.